December 23rd, 1984. Heathrow Airport, London. Freddie Mercury was rushing to catch his flight to New York when he heard something that stopped him cold. A 10-year-old girl playing Bach on the airport piano. She was crying. What happened next cost him everything. A crucial business meeting. £3 million. 6 hours of his life he'd never get back. But 35 years later, the world discovered why Freddie called it the best decision he ever made. The Christmas rush had turned Heathrow Terminal 3 into absolute chaos. Freddie moved through the crowd in his signature aviator sunglasses and black coat, invisible despite his fame. He had 90 minutes to make his 4:15 p.m. flight, barely enough time for security during the holiday madness. His manager's words echoed in his head. Miss this flight, miss the meeting, we lose millions. Then he heard it. Piano music near the Christmas tree. Bach's Prelude in C major, played with perfect technique but wrong in every way that mattered. The notes were mechanical, lifeless, and whoever was playing couldn't stop crying. Freddie should have kept walking. But something made him turn. A small girl sat at the public piano in a blue winter coat and red knit hat, tears streaming down her face. Her fingers hit every note correctly, but there was no soul in the music, just pain. Behind her stood a woman holding a small suitcase, trying desperately not to cry herself. Every few measures, the girl would stop, wipe her eyes with her sleeve, and force herself to continue. It was the saddest thing Freddie had ever seen. He watched as she reached the end of a phrase and collapsed, covering her face with both hands as sobs overtook her. The woman rushed forward, kneeling beside the bench. Emily, sweetheart, you don't have to play. Yes, I do, Mum. The girl's voice cracked with anguish. You spent everything on this New York trip to celebrate me getting into the Royal Academy. But then I failed the Christmas recital. The judges said I have no emotional depth, that I'm too mechanical, that I lack the soul for real music. They were right. I'm a failure, and you wasted all your money on me. That's when Freddie Mercury made the decision that would change everything. He took off his sunglasses, walked to the piano, and sat down beside the crying child. Excuse me, darling, he said gently, but those judges are complete idiots. The girl looked up, startled. Her mother stood quickly, then froze. You're Freddie Mercury. I am. He kept his eyes on Emily. And you, young lady, are not a machine. Want to know how I know? She shook her head, transfixed. Because machines don't cry when they play Bach. Machines don't care about emotional depth. The fact that you're devastated right now proves you have more soul than those judges could ever recognize. But they said, I don't care. His voice was gentle but firm. I've been called too theatrical my entire career, too flamboyant, too much. Critics say Queen lacks substance, that we're all style and no content. Know what I learned? Emily shook her head. People who can't create beauty spend their lives judging those who can. Those judges couldn't play Bach half as well as you just did, tears and all. They rejected you because a 10-year-old playing like you do terrifies people who spent decades achieving half your ability. A security officer approached. This piano is for professional musicians only. Move along, please. The mother stepped forward. I'm so sorry, officer. She is a professional, Freddie said, standing with theatrical flair. One of England's finest young pianists. I should know. I'm her teacher. The officer looked skeptical. I'll need to see credentials. Freddie smiled, that mischievous smile millions would have recognized instantly. Of course, let me demonstrate my teaching methods. He turned to the growing crowd of travelers. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Freddie Mercury. This brilliant young lady is my student, Emily Richardson. We're about to give you an impromptu lesson in proper musical technique. Then he began to sing. Somebody to Love filled Terminal 3. Not the stadium version. This was softer, more intimate, designed for the airport's acoustics. But it still had that impossible power that made Freddie Mercury legendary. The effect was instantaneous. Travelers stopped mid-step. Restaurant patrons rushed out to see. The security officer's face transformed from skepticism to stunned recognition. Within seconds, 200 people had gathered. More were arriving every moment. After the first verse, Freddie looked at Emily and nodded toward the piano. Your turn, darling. Her hands trembled as they touched the keys. But this time, it wasn't from sadness. It was from pure adrenaline. She was performing with Freddie Mercury in front of hundreds of strangers. She began playing, and something miraculous happened. The mechanical precision was still there, but now there was joy, confidence, real connection. She wasn't playing to impress judges anymore. She was creating beauty with someone who believed in her completely. Behind them, the departures board flickered. Flight BA 178 to New York, now boarding. Freddie had maybe 10 minutes before he'd miss it entirely. The £3 million Columbia Records deal was slipping away with every note. He didn't care. He kept singing, kept encouraging Emily with nods and smiles, kept pouring his heart into this moment. When they finished, Terminal 3 erupted. The applause lasted 5 full minutes. 300 people now crowded the area, clapping and filming on whatever cameras they had in 1984. Emily sat crying again. But these were tears of joy. Freddie knelt beside her, eye to eye. Understand now, those judges rejected you because you were playing for them, to impress them. But music doesn't exist to impress judges. It exists to connect human beings. When you played just now, you weren't proving anything. You were making beauty with someone who believed in you. That's when your soul came through. Emily threw her arms around his neck. Thank you. Sarah Richardson, Emily's mother, was openly crying. Mr. Mercury, you've given her back her love of music. Final boarding call for Flight BA 178 to New York. Sarah's face fell. That's your flight. I already missed it. Freddie checked his watch calmly. The final call was 3 minutes ago. Gate 47 is 12 minutes away. The plane's leaving without me. But you were going somewhere important. A meeting about money. Crucial to my career. Worth millions in record sales. My manager is probably having a heart attack. He pulled off Emily's red hat and ruffled her hair affectionately. But none of that matters compared to what just happened. This girl needed to understand she's not a machine, that she has soul. That music is about joy, not impressing judges who can't create beauty themselves. That lesson is worth more than all the record deals in the world. Then Freddie unwound the silk scarf from his neck. Distinctive paisley in deep purples and reds, worn in dozens of Queen photos, and wrapped it around Emily's neck. The silk was soft against her skin, softer than anything she'd ever owned. It smelled faintly of expensive cologne and cigarette smoke. Freddie's scent. Keep this. Every time you sit at a piano, remember, you are enough exactly as you are. You don't need to impress anyone. Just play with your whole heart. Emily looked overwhelmed. Then she pulled a small silver hair clip from her own hair, a simple clip with a tiny piano charm, and pressed it into Freddie's palm. I got this when I was accepted to the Royal Academy. It's my lucky charm, so you remember to keep making music with your whole heart, too. Freddie accepted it with a gentle smile and slipped it into his coat pocket. I promise. The crowd dispersed. The security officer approached with newfound respect. That was wonderful, Mr. Mercury. My apologies for earlier. None needed. When's the next New York flight? 10:45 p.m., 6 hours from now. Perfect. Time to call my very angry manager. Sarah still looked stunned. You sacrificed your meeting, 6 hours, everything, for a girl you'd never met. Why? Freddie's expression was simultaneously gentle and intense. Because someone did it for me once. When I was young and uncertain, being told I'd never succeed, someone believed in me when I needed it most. Today, I got to be that person for Emily. That's not a sacrifice. That's a gift. He knelt one final time to look Emily in the eyes. Promise me something. Never let judges or critics tell you that you lack soul. Keep playing, keep growing. And someday, when you're brilliant and successful and hear about a young person struggling, remember this day. Pass the gift forward. I promise, Emily whispered. Freddie stood up and started walking toward the ticket counter, but then he stopped. He turned back one more time. Emily, darling, one more thing. She looked up, still clutching the silk scarf. That scarf has been with me through some of the biggest moments of my career, important concerts, historic performances, moments I'll never forget." He paused. "But none of those moments will ever matter as much as this one. Remember that when you doubt yourself." Then he walked away. Emily and Sarah watched him go, both crying, both knowing something extraordinary had just happened. But they had no idea how extraordinary. What Emily and her mother didn't know, what nobody knew for 35 years, was what Freddie did the moment he got home that night. Something so private, so personal, that it would only be discovered after his death. And when the world finally found out, it changed everything we thought we knew about that day at Heathrow. In 2019, researchers cataloging Freddie's personal effects from Garden Lodge made a discovery that solved a decades-old mystery. The researcher's hands were trembling as she opened the old leather journal. What she saw on page 47 made her call her supervisor immediately. "You need to see this, right now." It was Freddie's handwriting. December 23rd, 1984. "Missed the New York flight today. Lost the Columbia Records deal. Manager furious. Band will probably be angry. Don't care. Met a little girl at Heathrow who reminded me why music matters more than money. She gave me a hair clip with a piano on it. Keeping it forever as a reminder, the best investments we make are in people, not profits." They found that hair clip exactly where he'd described, in the coat pocket, carefully preserved all those years. They also found boarding passes proving Freddie had indeed missed his 4:15 p.m. flight, rebooked for 10:45 p.m., and arrived in New York too late for the Columbia Records meeting. The financial cost? Over £3 million in lost revenue and opportunities, one of the worst business decisions Queen's management ever witnessed. But tucked in that same journal was something else. A newspaper clipping from 1989. A tiny article about the Royal Academy's graduation ceremony, featuring a young woman named Emily Richardson receiving the Most Promising Pianist of Her Class award. Freddie had kept that clipping until his death in 1991. On the back, in his distinctive handwriting, "Best $3 million I Never Earned, December 2019. The BBC tracked down Emily Richardson for a documentary about Freddie's life. She was now 45, serving as principal pianist for the London Philharmonic Orchestra. She brought the silk scarf, carefully preserved in a protective case. "I wear this to every important performance," she told them, tears in her eyes. "Not because it belonged to Freddie Mercury. I wear it because it reminds me what he taught me, that music isn't about impressing judges. It's about connecting with people, about putting your whole soul into every note, about being vulnerable and real instead of technically perfect." She touched the scarf gently. For years after that day, even after the cologne scent faded, she swore she could still catch a hint of it whenever she wrapped it around her shoulders before a performance. After Heathrow, everything changed. He didn't give me magic solutions or secret techniques. He gave me permission to be imperfect, to play with emotion instead of precision. She paused, remembering. "I went back to the academy for my first audition after meeting Freddie. I wrapped his scarf around my shoulders. The judge asked why I was wearing it. I said, 'It's my reminder that perfection isn't the point.'" Her voice grew softer. "I played with tears in my eyes, just like that day at Heathrow. And for the first time in my life, a judge smiled and said, 'Now that had soul.'" Then came the question everyone wanted answered. "Did you ever see him again?" Emily shook her head. "Never. I wrote letters through Queen's management, but never knew if he received them. When he died in 1991, I was 17. I cried for days. Not because I'd lost a celebrity, because I'd lost someone who changed my entire life in 90 minutes and never knew how much it meant." She paused, wiping her eyes. The interviewer started to move on to the next question. Then Emily said something that made everyone in the room freeze. "But last year, I discovered something that changed everything." Her voice was barely a whisper. The cameras zoomed in. "Freddie had kept my gift for 7 years, until the day he died, and what he told his partner about it." She couldn't finish the sentence. She was crying too hard. The interviewer waited, giving her time. "At Garden Lodge's memorial concert, I met Jim Hutton, Freddie's partner during his final years. Jim told me Freddie kept a small hair clip with a piano charm in his coat pocket for 7 years. He'd take it out occasionally and look at it, smiling. Her voice broke. Jim asked him once what it was. Freddie said, "That's from a little girl who reminded me why I make music. She gave me her lucky charm and told me to keep making music with my whole heart. So I keep this to remind me that the best part of being famous isn't the money or awards. It's the chance to help one person understand their own worth." The room was silent except for Emily's quiet sobs. Freddie sacrificed £3 million for me, 6 hours of his life, a crucial meeting, and never thought twice. For 35 years, I've tried to live up to that gift. I've taught hundreds of young musicians, many from families who can't afford lessons. I've mentored students who were told they weren't good enough, and every time, I try to be for them what Freddie was for me, someone who believes in them when they've stopped believing in themselves. The documentary ended with Emily playing Bach's Prelude in C major, the same piece from Heathrow in 1984. But this time, there were no trembling fingers, no mechanical precision devoid of soul. This time, her playing was technically perfect and emotionally devastating. Exactly what Freddie had tried to teach her. True musicianship comes from the courage to be vulnerable, to let your humanity show through every note. Today, a small plaque at Heathrow Terminal 3 reads, "On December 23, 1984, Freddie Mercury taught the world that the most valuable investments we make are in people, not profits. Time given with love is never time wasted." The hair clip with the piano charm is displayed at the Freddie Mercury Museum. The placard explains, "A reminder that greatness is measured not by the deals we close, but by the hearts we change." Freddie Mercury missed a £3 million business deal that day. He lost 6 hours sitting in an airport. He frustrated his manager and complicated Queen's business arrangements, and he considered it the best investment he ever made, not because it was easy, not because it was convenient, but because it was right. Because he understood what few in the music industry grasp. Careers are built on contracts and money, but legacies are built on moments when you choose people over profits, when you sacrifice convenience for kindness, when you give your time to someone who needs it more than whatever you were rushing toward. The judges who rejected Emily were technically correct. Her playing lacked emotional depth at that moment. But they failed to understand that emotional depth isn't something you either have or don't have. It's something you develop through vulnerability, through having someone believe in you, through learning that perfection matters less than authenticity. Freddie gave Emily 90 minutes at Heathrow Airport. She gave the world 35 years of musical brilliance inspired by those 90 minutes. And somewhere, in whatever comes after, Freddie Mercury is probably smiling at that hair clip with the piano charm, thinking £3 million was a very small price to pay for a legacy like that.